Usyk, Anthony Joshua announced, I believe, August 20th. I think they're probably doing it in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia's got that money. It's crazy what you'll do to get that bad press to go away with Jamal Khashoggi. But they got the money. They're going to pay the site fee. What are you looking for in this one? I'm excited for this. I don't think Anthony Joshua can beat Usyk. I think Usyk has the confidence knowing what he did the first time and gets him and beats him easier the second time. That's my opinion.
I would agree with that. But there's an X factor. But I would agree with it at face value, at first blush. Because I've been in this business almost 50 years. And when a guy wins a fight with a guy, and Joshua's no spring chicken, they're both getting up there, especially, I don't know who's older, but, he's getting up there a little, and he's made a lot of money. You have to put that into the factor. Are you as hungry? Are you as hungry? He's made a lot of money. I don't know if he is. I think that he showed the possibility of being influenced in those dimensions when he fought Madison Square Garden and got knocked out by Ruiz. He didn't look like a hungry guy. He didn't. So, and he came back. Give him credit. He came back, got the title, beat Ruiz, fought a different style, became a different person, a different physical being for that. Took a lot of weight off.
By the way, Teddy, Usyk is 35, AJ 32.
Okay, so Usyk's even older. But sometimes you judge age in different ways. And for me, Joshua is getting older in a way that I started to touch on, that he might have satisfied himself in certain realms of making money. When you do that, you get old. Yeah, because you get disinterested. I think that's at play a little bit. And I think a guy like Usyk, it's never about money. I think it's about the fight. I think it's about honor, pride. I'm not saying the other guy don't have that. But for Usyk, I think it's about, like Beterbiev, I think it's about honor, pride, legacy. And now there's an X factor. I think it's about his people. That terrible war going on with Russia over in the Ukraine. Of course, Usyk is Ukrainian. He lives there. In some ways, he may attach himself, and I'm sure he will, that he's fighting for the people. He's fighting for the Ukrainian people in some way.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I do, Ken. So I think that's an X factor. Also, as I started to say, usually in these kind of matchups, when one guy, let's say the guy that's the hungrier guy, which I think is Usyk, I think anyway, but he was the underdog going in. And of course, he not only beat Joshua, he came close to stopping him. He dominated at the end. Close fight, but then he dominated. It was a chess match a little bit, and then he, a little bit, it was the quickness and the dimensional ability of Usyk, the cerebralness of Usyk, the determination is always there against the right hand of Joshua. And he was able to avoid the right hand of Joshua that could always change the fight. He's the bigger man. He's the bigger puncher. Could always change the fight. And he dodged it, and then he hurt him late and came close to stopping him. I think that will still be in the air. The power of the right hand by Joshua, that's always an element, that it could change the fight at any time, even if he's losing. It could change the fight quickly. Power can be a great eraser to make up for a lot of mistakes. But I think that usually these fights, when I look at the history, as I said, 50 years me being in this business, usually in the way that I just drew it up, the way I just described it, when that fighter wins the first fight, in this case, I think the hungrier guy, I think in the end, he dominated. I think the guy that showed himself to be a better all-around fighter, when that guy wins the first time, he usually wins the second time easier. To your point, you said, I think he'll win easier. I agree with that. But here's another X factor on the other side of the ledger. Usyk just went through a life-changing experience. He saw his countrymen die. He saw his country taken apart. He saw things that he's seen since he was a baby destroyed. Buildings, factories, people's lives. He's seen that destroyed with artillery. Not artillery of a left or a right hand. Artillery of bombs, of machine guns, of missiles from the Russian army. That impacts you. I don't care what kind of fighter you are. That impacts you. And when you've seen that, it puts things into perspective. It puts things where, how important is anything compared to life? How important is boxing? How important is making millions of dollars? I know it's important, but how important is that compared to your country, to your countrymen, to your children, to your future, to the life that you've known? All of a sudden it becomes minimal. All of a sudden, wow, boxing's not quite as important as it once used to be. And that perspective, as proper as it is, and it is proper, there are things more important than anything we do. Our family, life itself, always more important. But when that perspective strikes home, and it doesn't always, but in this case because of the war, when you live through that, as Usyk has, and you're touched by that, which Usyk has been, your perspective changes. And as healthy as that perspective is, and true it is, it's not healthy for a fighter. It's not healthy for a guy that has to go in that ring, and that has to be the priority. That has to be the priority. Winning your career, some selfishness, because it's your career, it's putting yourself, yes, your family, but it's putting yourself first. All of a sudden, being awakened by this experience and having that new perspective, that can be a danger to a fighter, where all of a sudden, it's not as important. Now, it's either going to be that, and that's what makes this the X factor. Very interesting. It's either going to be that, or it's going to be he attaches himself to what I said earlier, Ken. I'm fighting for Ukraine. I'm fighting for that flag. I'm fighting for the pride of my country. I'm fighting for the people, to give them something of hope, to give them something to help lead them out of the rubble. When they're going to need something else besides humanitarian help from the Red Cross and from all the good people out there and everything else, and their warriors, their soldiers, all of that. But they're going to need something eventually else to lead them out of the rubble. He can become that something, that symbol of hope. So it's going to be one or the other. That's what makes this fight intriguing to me. Because otherwise, I think it's a one-sided fight, or potentially a one-sided, except for as I said, there's always the power of that right hand that could change things. But at the end of the day, that's how I break the fight down. That's what makes it interesting. That's what makes it semi-important. And I will go with Usyk again.